So initially I wasn't planning on doing a video on this, but I decided to watch RWBY Ice Queendom because, I used to like RWBY, and then I lost interest. I don't even know what season I was in when I lost interest, but I haven't gone back in a long time, and everything I've heard about it since then is just like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go back. But you know, seeing as how this is like starting over, I was holding out hope, like, maybe there's a chance that I mean, as far as I know, the original RWBY, the writers are not actually skilled writers, so they kind of didn't know what they were doing. So I thought, hey, maybe if it's getting picked up by a Japanese animation studio, maybe they'll get some new writing staff on to kind of take the story in a new direction, fix a lot of the problems that the original had. That was my hope, and I was cautiously optimistic as to what would happen. And I mean, I'm already more invested now. Not only is the animation like gorgeous, like the art style too, but it really does feel like they're going to change some things. And I did, in a discussion somewhere, I did see someone mention like, oh, they're trying to get through the first two seasons and then they're going to branch off and do their own thing and do their own kind of story, sort of. And if that's the case, then I am all the way here for it because that would be perfect. Now, they did already do quite a few changes. It feels like they're kind of just trying to breeze through those first two seasons. Like, to the point where occasionally it feels like they're just kind of skipping through things and just kind of like, okay, we're going on to the next thing. Okay, we're going on to the next thing. And it's like, okay, whoa, slow down, give this some room to breathe. And they don't do that. But I mean, overall, I would say things are better. So initially, the first thing I noticed is like episode one is already vastly different. Rather than start with, RWBY in the store getting like into the fight. I mean, they do that in the first episode, but rather than start off with that, they introduce RWBY and Yang and their dad for some reason, and kind of introduce the characters a little bit, and they establish how RWBY's mom is dead and stuff like that, and why she's in the store in the first place as well. And then additionally, so before the first episode in the original, they had the four trailers to introduce each of the four main cast members. And RWBY didn't really have anything story relevant. It was just kind of like, here's our concept that we're gonna do. And I was like, okay, that's cool. It's a cool fight scene, cool character with a cool weapon. But didn't really establish much. And then the second trailer also didn't have any like story relevant anything. It was just, Weiss fighting a giant suit of armor. And I mean, apparently that was canon, but they never really went into much detail about what that was, why it happened. It was a thing. It's why she has a scar on her face. And that's about it. Like, okay, all right. Why? But in Ice Queendom, they actually like put that in the first episode. They actually put that in the story, and they gave a reason for it. They introduced her family as well, which they didn't introduce until like, God, I don't even think her sister came into the picture until like season 3 or 4 or something like that. It's been a while. I don't remember when anything happened, but yeah, her sister didn't even get revealed until way late. But they introduced her sister, her dad, her brother, just all of that, and it's like, okay, we're just going right into it. And they use the suit of armor fight as like, well, they established that it's a Grimm for one, but despite that, it doesn't have the usual like color scheme, which I thought was odd, but whatever. Anyway, they established like, oh, her dad's trying to keep her home, so he's using this as sort of like a quote unquote test for her to see if she's ready to go off to school, but it's really there because he doesn't think she can do it so that she will stay home. But then she does it, and she's like, okay, I'm going to go to school now. And he's like, oh, fine, do whatever you want. And it's like, this is a lot of character establishment that she didn't get initially. I really like this. And then Blake's introduction trailer is in this, which isn't really changed much. It's pretty much the same, minus I guess, what's his name, Adam, minus Adam's big like slash move that where his face glows and whatever. They just took that out, but everything else is pretty much the same. Establishes that she runs away from the White Fang, blah blah blah. Yang's trailer, which made zero sense. And again, that's something I'm not sure if it was supposed to be canon or not, but they never really explained it in the original. They just kind of like, here's the trailer, and then we don't really have anywhere to put that, so we're just going to skip over it. All right. Because I think in the original trailer, she was looking for her mom, and she was looking for information, and then she just fights a bunch of people in this club. And it's like, okay, why is she at this club? I know she's looking for her mom, but why? Like, what does she need her mom for? I mean, her mom shows up at one point in the original, and I don't know. It made no sense, and they just cut that out completely in this, which is good. So Yang doesn't really get as much. Well, no, actually, no, she does get a good bit of characterization in Ice Queendom because, rather than have her actiony bits, she is instead getting more character moments where it's kind of her relationship with RWBY, and it's like, I want to be a good sister to RWBY. And her dad's like, well, you can't always be the protector. You got to let her grow on her own. And she's like, you're right. So then throughout the first episode, she's kind of like, well, I got to let RWBY be on her own once in a while because then she won't have to rely on me all the time. And they kind of establish that and have that relevant to, like, even when they get into the school. She's like, I'm not going to be able to be with you all the time, so I'm going to kind of let you try to grow on your own. I mean, they still get end up on the same team together, so whatever. But and then Weiss as a character, they establish her a little more because in the original she was just kind of snooty, and her relationship with RWBY just kind of improved suddenly. I mean, like, they got on each other's nerves still, but it's like she just suddenly got along with RWBY, and it's like that doesn't feel super well deserved. But okay, I mean, maybe I'm misremembering it, but I don't know. It's been a long time. But then she's got the argument with Blake later on. I think they did that before as well. But again, I think they did it a little better, and they did her being Ephanis reveal a little better. It rather than like, oh, we heard about this discrimination in the classroom and whatever. It's like, no, now the discrimination bit is actually having like weight on their team on a personal level, and it's just better. I mean, a lot of stuff like that has just been kind of like moved around a little bit, placed in different areas, just kind of woven into the story. I think slightly better. Again, I think with what they had to work with originally, it's kind of hard to put it together perfectly because they are still trying to cover those first 2 seasons without changing too much. But I mean, it's good. It's not perfect, but it's good. I mean, I hope they kind of slow it down a little bit in the future and give stuff more time to breathe. But as it stands right now, I mean, they're already, I think, well into season 2 as far as like where the story is, and it's been 3 episodes, so I don't know. But the characterization's way better. Each character's just got better moments. Like the dialogue is a lot less awkward and quippy, I think. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like this is the studio or group of people or whatever that they were coming off of Red versus Blue. I mean, this is something they hadn't really tried before. They hadn't really tried to make a more narrative type of show. They were used to the jokes or whatever. Like, oh, let's make the jokes and then have that connect with everything else. Like, we'll have the story kind of, and then we'll just jokes all the way in between. Whereas, like, RWBY, that doesn't work quite as well, which I'm glad they toned that way down. But there are a couple things that just, because they're not doing that, just kind of feel out of place, I guess. Like, when Ozpin places the cookies in front of her in the first episode, and then they don't do anything with that. Like in the original, she's like just shoveling the cookies in her face like a degenerate. But in this one, she just puts the cookies down and then nothing. There's no reason for the cookies. And there's a few little details like that where it's just like, okay, that just kind of went nowhere. But like even though those little moments just kind of, it feels like there should be something there, or it's like, oh, that joke was actually not too bad. They could have left this one in. I mean, there's not many of those, don't get me wrong. I mean, like, first season RWBY tried to be, like, quippy and just failed miserably, like, 90% of the time. As far as I remember, it just wasn't funny. So, taking a lot of that awkwardness out of it, it gives it a more serious tone, but, like in a good way. And then, I think it's in the last episode. I mean, they kind of established it a little earlier, but in the last episode, well, not the last episode, but in episode 3, which is what's out right now, as far as me like making this, but I don't know when the next episodes are going to come out. But in the third episode, they have what I think is a brand new character that wasn't in the original. Even now, I'm assuming, is this dream catcher lady who is hunting a very specific type of Grimm that latches onto people's dreams and then feeds off of their anxiety or something. And that's the kind of stuff I really like about RWBY, is when they get these really unconventional weapons and just really go into this fantasy element and not, politics or like, I don't know, like the Grimm, I feel like in the original RWBY were just like, they're there, but there really should have been more to them. I mean, they feel, in the original, they felt just like background elements because, oh, well, we've got to, got to make sure the human characters interact, got to make sure they do their thing. And it's like, okay, but these monsters, what about them? Like, they're really cool. I want to see more of that. And they just kind of passed over it. But no, in this, it feels like I don't remember which season it is, but there's one season of RWBY where they've got this magical artifact and they're trying to bring it somewhere safe. And they stop in this town where everyone's just dead. And they're like, huh, that's really weird. Also, we're really tired. We're going to rest here because this isn't at all suspicious. And they encounter this Grimm that literally makes you so tired that you give up on life, and then it feeds off your depression or something. And I thought like that episode was fantastic. I thought it was great, really interesting, and there's just not enough of that in original RWBY. And this like Dream Eater Grimm, fantastic idea. I want to see more of that, because this one established more of like Jean's character as well as Weiss's character, or it's going to establish more Weiss's character. She affected by it in episode 3, but like, just, yeah, it seems like it's going to be more exciting, and I really like that. And like I said, also, like with the quippiness of characters, I feel like the moment to moment dialogue of certain characters is way better, because it just, I don't know how to explain it, but Nora, as one example, was supposed to be this like chipper crazy girl character, and I feel like this establishes that much more with minimal effort, where the original like tried way too hard to establish it and didn't quite do it well enough. Like, it doesn't establish her as ditzy enough, or is this just like, it just does it and it doesn't feel like it has to try too hard? It's like, oh, she's this ditzy crazy character. And in the original, it's like they tried to have her do as like much as possible to seem like that. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way that I view it. I don't know if that's how anyone else would view it, but that's how I looked at it. And then I think Penny's introduction was a little better. I don't know if I could really put it into words. She doesn't have her salutations, which I always thought was kind of like, are you trying to give her a catchphrase, or what is that? But that's gone. I feel like part of her introduction, they just kind of really skip through really fast, because there's this one point where like they encounter the White Fang and they're causing trouble, and then all of a sudden there's an explosion, and then Penny walks out of the fire with all of her flying swords or whatever, and it's just like, what just happened? We didn't see any of that. What is it? Did I miss something? Did I have a fugue state? Like, what, did I just completely blank on what just happened, or did you just skip through that? I don't know. For every like good thing, there's like a moment to moment stuff where I'm just like, that. Please, what just happened? Although there are a few side characters, I feel like they really did a good job of just cutting them out completely. Like Jean's whole arc with like Cardin Winchester. Cardin Winchester was really not necessary as a character, because it's like, oh, here's a bully, got to take care of the bully, and it's like, you really don't need that. Like, have him deal with his self-consciousness in other ways, and they're doing a better job of that, I think. Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of unnecessary characters that are just cut out because they don't need to be there. I think Velvet's another one that's not in this at all. We'll see if she shows up at some point, but she really didn't need to be in the original, and she really isn't in here. She isn't in here at all, and that's fine with me because I think initially maybe they had a plan with her, but they just didn't know what to do, and so they just like ended up taking her out anyway. Anyway, I don't know if I'm sure I've talked about just about maybe not. I don't know. There was, long story short, really good. I'm very hopeful that they're going to branch off to their own thing because Modern RWBY kind of sucks. And if you've watched any videos talking about Modern RWBY, most of them will say the same thing. As far as I've noticed anyway. Most of them are like, yeah, this is not as good as it used to be. These plot lines don't add up. These characters and what they're doing and saying don't add up. There's contradictions. The writing is poor. Like, things are added in and taken out for no reason. Unnecessary. And so I'm really excited to hopefully see that they're branching away. Although I really wish they would take a little more time and not rush through it so fast. But I'm hoping that if they can rush through it, fast enough, that they can get to the really good meaty bits of what they're trying to do. Because again, that new Grimm concept with the Dreamcatcher lady, like, that was awesome. I really liked that. It was new, it was different, it was interesting. And I want to see more of that kind of stuff. And I want to see what this new studio doing it like has to offer. I want to see like what writing chops these people working on it have going on. Because, people really like anime. That's a lot of why people got into RWBY in the first place. But then RWBY did not deliver on that promise of being anime. Not only because it's, not hand drawn and it was full, like, I think, what would you call that? Self-shaded 3D maybe? I don't know. But it didn't even do the anime tropes right a lot of the time. It screwed those up even. Or like the writing style or just a lot of that. It didn't do kind of what it was promising, I guess. I don't know how to put that. But now that it's, it's actually like, you got a Japanese studio on it. It's like Japanese voices and everything. Like, they've got the whole shebang. But I feel like things can only go up from here because they've established, like, they've got an idea of what they're doing. Things kind of, I know I said a lot of stuff felt randomly cut out for no reason, but they did make a lot of stuff flow together better. I'm just really excited for where they're going to go from here because I feel like my optimism is going up, and I'm really excited to see more of this. So yeah. Anyway, thanks you for listening. Thank you for listening. Be sure to press all the buttons, and I hope you have a great day.